The envelope was the pale ivory of buttercream, the exact shade I pipe onto wedding cakes. It sat on my bakery counter at 5 in the morning, propped against the register like it had been waiting all night. I froze the second I saw the handwriting. Not the familiar scrawl of the woman who raised me, the one who taught me to fold butter into dough until my forearms ached, but the script of the one who signed me away when I was 3. 20 years of silence. And now a letter the color of joy was waiting in the dark before the ovens were even warm. I knew if I opened it, the life I'd built, the bakery, the husband, the baby girl might crack wide open. But some things don't wait. So I turned on the lights and let the mixer hum, buying time. Because I'd learned long ago that when the world tilts, you stick to what you know. The bakery filled with the smell of yeast and cold sugar, and I stood there, a 31-year-old woman with flour under her nails, terrified of a rectangle of paper. My name is Claire Bennett. I own the flower garden on Oak Street, outright a sentence I used to whisper just to believe it. My husband David builds custom furniture 2 doors down, and most mornings he brings me coffee without a word, because he knows I have no words until the first tray is in. Our daughter Emma is 1, with 8 teeth and a laugh like a hiccup. When I hold her, I understand why I never went looking for my past. My adoptive parents, Ruth and Frank, sold me this bakery for $1 and a promise to keep their sourdough starter alive. They are not my birth parents. They are the ones who stayed. Ruth's heart had been fluttering, the doctor was watching it, and Frank coped by rearranging flour bins and pretending not to worry. I stayed late 3 nights that week, finishing the Hendricks 4-tier wedding cake, piping roses nobody else could get right. And all the while, that cream envelope sat like a challenge. I opened it at 9, after the morning rush, in the back room where the industrial mixer could drown out my heartbeat. The paper was heavy, the kind you buy to seem serious. The handwriting was looping and deliberate, the penmanship of a woman who wanted to appear gentle. Dearest Claire, it began. My stomach dropped, because no one calls me Claire. My birth name was Clara, a name on a certificate I've never seen. She wrote that she'd thought of me every single day, that God had placed me back on her heart. And then, 3 paragraphs in, wrapped in so much sweetness I almost missed the blade, she asked for $40,000. Not for herself, she was careful to say, but for my brother, a boy named Jason, 19, of such promise. College was expensive, and family helps family. She underlined family. She signed it your mother, Sylvia, as if that word were a fact, not a thing you earn. I sat on an overturned flour bucket and read it twice. 40 grand to the woman who once decided I was the affordable one to let go. My hands were steady. And I noticed that steadiness because it meant something in me had already gone numb. She wanted money, that part was simple. But she'd signed with a name she gave away when she gave me away. That told me the money was just the doorway. She was informing me that the account she'd opened 3 decades ago was still, in her mind, open, and she'd come to make a withdrawal. I called my friend Maya on my lunch break. Maya's a paralegal, and she tells me the truth even when it costs her a free slice of pie. I read her the letter in the alley behind the shop, next to the dumpster, with flowers still on my apron. She was quiet for a second, then said, "Legally, an adoption severs every tie. Sylvia Vance is not your mother in any way the law recognizes. You owe her exactly nothing, no money, no reply, no guilt." I watched a delivery truck idle at the end of the alley. "So I can throw the letter away and be done," I said. Maya let the silence sit before adding, "Legally, sure. But you and I both know that's not the account she's trying to collect on." She was right. Sylvia was tapping into an emotional debt that had no legal protection, only the soft, hopeful part of me that had spent 28 years wondering if a mother somewhere cried. That night, I wrote back at my kitchen table. I kept it short and kind, because kindness was the only boundary I could reliably hold. I said I was glad she and Jason were well, that I had a full life, and that I wouldn't be sending money. I signed it Claire, not your daughter. Then I blocked the number she'd included. David watched me, not telling me what to feel. He just put his hand over mine and said, "You owe that woman nothing. If she comes at you, she comes at both of us." I slept that night like a door had closed. But I want to be honest, even as I mailed the refusal, another voice was doing arithmetic. 40,000 was a lot, But for a woman who'd clawed her way to owning a building, it was survivable. What if one payment made the guilt stop? If I wrote the check, I'd be the generous one, the bigger person. I almost did it. I actually picked up my pen. I almost bought peace. If you've ever tried to pay your way out of a past that won't stay quiet, you know exactly how that feels. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Ruth, her voice carrying that thin thread I'd heard during her last health scare. A woman had called the house. She said a stranger asking for Clara. Frank said there was no Clara there. And the woman replied, "Oh, but there is. She goes by something else now. How's the bakery doing?" I gripped the counter so hard a bag of flour split. Sylvia had found our home number, not my cell. She knew about the bakery. I'd told her nothing. She was reaching past me, circling to the softest people I loved. I told Ruth to hang up if she called again, but my heart was hammering. A stranger who accepts a no goes away. A stranger who hunts for your parents' number isn't asking, she's measuring the walls. I did some digging that evening. It didn't take long to find the leak. My Aunt Patricia, Sylvia's cousin, the one who sent Christmas cards and seemed neutral, had been the pipeline. For years, she'd been feeding Sylvia information. My baking program, my wedding, the bakery's success, Emma's birth. She thought she was being kind. I called her, keeping my voice soft because a soft voice is a fishing line. Patricia spilled everything, relieved to unburden herself. "She's your mother, honey. Blood is blood," she said. I asked her to stop. She went silent, hurt, and I felt the last thread to that side of my history snap. Losing her ached, but I locked that door. Sylvia didn't care about locked doors. A few days later, while I was frosting lemon cakes near the front window, a car I didn't recognize parked across the street. A woman in her late 50s stepped out, wearing a coat too nice for our downtown. She stood on the far sidewalk, staring at my shop with the intensity of someone appraising a house she used to own. I knew her instantly. The chin was mine. Sylvia. She didn't come in. She just looked, then got back in her car and drove away. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't. Because that look told me she wasn't done. I decided to catch up to her at the traffic light before she left town. I pulled up beside her sedan, rolled down my window, and for the first time in 28 years, I looked my birth mother in the eye. Up close, she was softer than her coat, tired around the mouth. When she saw me, her face rearranged into something warm and practiced. "Clara," she breathed, like a prayer answered. I said, "My name is Claire, and you need to stay away from my parents." She flinched at parents. Then she recovered, her voice gentle and full of hooks. "I only want what's best for this family. I gave you a better life, and all I'm asking is that you help your brother. Don't you think you owe the family that gave you that chance?" The light turned green. A truck honked. I said, "That's not how it works," and rolled up my window. But just before the glass sealed, she called out, "That's my grandbaby too." She'd mentioned Emma. The threat was clear. She considered my daughter part of her claim. That evening, I sat on the nursery floor while Emma slept, and I felt the exhaustion of holding a door shut against someone stronger than the lock. I almost gave in. Just pay her and be done, I thought. Then, my phone lit up. It was Frank, calling from the hospital. Ruth had had a cardiac episode, mild, the doctor said, but brought on by stress. Sylvia had come to their house that afternoon. She'd stood on the porch and told Ruth, "You've had her 30 years. I just want a little help for my son. You owe me the daughter you got to keep." She'd called my mother a thief. Ruth's chest had seized, and Frank found her gripping the counter. I drove to the hospital without remembering the road. Ruth lay in a bed with wires and oxygen, looking small. Near dawn, she woke, grabbed my hand, and whispered, "Don't let her take you from me." That was the moment the last soft part of me turned to steel. I sat there as the gray light crept through the blinds, and I realized I'd been playing defense my whole life. But defense loses slowly, and I had a daughter now. I was done losing. I decided to drive the 3 hours to Sylvia's city. I wasn't going to pay, I was going to find out what the $40,000 was really for. After Ruth stabilized, I got in my car. David offered to come. I told him to guard the house and Emma. I drove the 180 miles in a trance, rehearsing nothing. I pulled up to a tired little house in a neighborhood of small yards and big trucks. Before I could knock, the front door opened and a teenager came out carrying a duffel bag. Tall, unsure, with my chin. Jason. He stopped when he saw me. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he said. The ma'am nearly undid me. I said, "My name is Claire." "I think Sylvia is my mother too." He went pale. He set the duffel down slowly. "I had a sister," he said, more to himself. "Mom said there was a baby before me, a girl, but it didn't work out. Didn't work out like a recipe that failed." I asked him gently if he was excited for college. He looked at me as if I'd spoken another language. "College? What college?" he said. No, he wasn't enrolled anywhere. No one had asked him about tuition. He'd finished high school and wanted to be a welder. He was good with his hands, but his mother kept pushing for a real school. He had no idea someone was being asked for $40,000 in his name. When I told him, his face filled with shame, not surprise. "Mom does that," he whispered. "She tells people things about me." I saw the duffel bag and realized I'd walked into the middle of a boy leaving home. Before we could talk more, the door opened and Sylvia stepped out. For a split second, her face was pure panic at the sight of us together. Then, the mask returned, warm and gracious. "Jason, honey, go put your bag inside. Let me talk with our guest." Not Claire, not Clara. Our guest. She led me into a kitchen where a kettle was already screaming. She made coffee, and then excused herself to take a call she couldn't ignore. The instant she was gone, Jason slipped back in. He pointed at a stack of envelopes on the table. "Look at the top one," he whispered. I had maybe 10 seconds. The top envelope was a past due notice on a personal loan in Sylvia's name, the amount circled in her looping hand. Below it, a collections letter. A note about money owed to relatives for a wedding gift she'd promised and couldn't cover. The $40,000 was never for Jason's education. It was to plug Sylvia's debts and save her reputation. She'd wrapped it in a boy's name because she knew I'd never fire through a child. Jason was the shield, I was the deep pocket she'd been watching for 20 years. Sylvia came back, all smiles. "So, have you decided how you'd like to send it?" I told her I needed to think. Her smile flickered, revealing something hard. "You think," she muttered. "Always the careful one. You owe me, Clara. I carried you. I gave you up so you could have a better life. Do you know what that costs?" In her mind, abandoning me was a sacrifice that had earned interest. I left without committing, but I knew I couldn't give her a cent. Any money would feed the machine that had discarded me and was now crushing my brother. So I came up with a plan. With Maya's help, I met with a trust attorney. Mrs. Patel explained that the funds could be legally untouchable by any relative. I liked the sound of that. It was a weapon of paperwork, and it fit the crime perfectly. I set up an educational trust for Jason, enough for his welding program and more, to launch a life. The funds would be locked, managed by an independent trustee, and payable only directly to the vocational school or tool supplier. Not a dollar could be diverted to Sylvia, borrowed against, or spent on anything but Jason's future. It was a gift she could never turn into currency. I texted Jason secretly, and he called me from the auto shop on his break. He told me later he'd almost deleted my text, thinking it was another scheme. But something made him call. I explained the trust. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Nobody's ever asked me what I wanted before. You're the first." I leaned against the walk-in cooler, my eyes burning. 2 kids, one thrown away and one held too tight, and neither of us had ever been asked the simplest question. The night before Sylvia's family reunion dinner, I visited Ruth and Frank. Ruth was home, slow but herself. She took my hand and said, "You spent your whole life trying to earn your way in here, sweetheart. But you didn't earn us. You don't get kept for being useful. You get kept for being ours." Frank had said that once, and now Ruth was handing it back. I tucked it in my chest. The next day, I drove to Sylvia's again, wearing my good coat. In my bag was a cream envelope, the exact shade she'd used, the shade of wedding cake icing, because I wanted her to see it and think she'd won. The house was full of relatives I'd never met. Sylvia seated me in the center of the long table, touching my arm, calling me Clara. She served Jason first. An old reflex, the boy always got the choicest piece. No one blinked. An elderly great-aunt, past caring, told the story of how Sylvia was raised to believe a daughter's only worth was the son she could produce. I understood then. Sylvia wasn't the author of the cruelty. She was its most obedient employee. But a victim who becomes an enforcer is still an enforcer. After dessert, Sylvia stood and tapped her glass. She talked about family and sacrifice, then turned to me with rehearsed warmth. As many of you know, my Clara has done so well. She's generously agreed to help this family in our time of need, especially her brother. She squeezed Jason's shoulder, and he went rigid. Every face turned to me, waiting for the grateful daughter to nod. I set down my fork, stood, and reached into my bag. Sylvia's eyes gleamed at the cream envelope. I didn't raise my voice. I want to be honest with everyone, I said, since we're all family. The $40,000 is not for Jason's college. Jason isn't enrolled anywhere. He wants to learn welding, and nobody in this house ever asked him. I named the debts I'd seen the past due loan, the collections, the wedding gift money. A cousin whispered, I always wondered where she got that money, and was shushed. The room went cold. Sylvia's mask shattered. You ungrateful, she started. But I was already opening the envelope. I pulled out trust documents and laid them on the table. This is money for Jason, I said. It's held in a trust by someone outside this family. It can only be used for his education and tools, paid directly to the program he chooses. It cannot be given to Sylvia, borrowed by Sylvia, or spent on anything but his future. You don't need to sign anything, I told her. Only Jason does. This was never yours to say yes to. I slid the papers to him. The silence was absolute. Jason stared at them like they were the first real thing he'd ever held. Sylvia's chair fell over as she shot up, shouting that I owed her, that she'd sacrificed everything. The family watched a mother demand payment for discarding her daughter. I stayed seated and said, You didn't give me away, Sylvia. You gave me back. There's a difference. I told her I'd never give her $1, and this was the last time she'd see me. Then I looked at Jason. He was trembling, but he picked up the papers and said, I want the welding program. That's what I've always wanted. Then, to his mother, she asked me what I wanted. You never did. Sylvia tried to grab the papers, but Jason held them to his chest. They're mine, he said. You can't have them. It was the first time in that house anyone chose me over her, and it was the son doing it. I put my hand on his shoulder once, the way Frank did. Some aunts were crying. Patricia wouldn't meet my eyes. I said goodbye only to Jason, telling him he had a family now 3 hours north that smelled like fresh bread. Then I walked out, past the coats and casserole dishes, into the cold evening. I didn't look back. I'd spent 28 years looking back, and now I was done. The drive home was quiet and dark. When I pulled in, David had the porch light on. Emma was asleep, and the house smelled like his worry soup. I stood in the doorway, breathing in the difference between this threshold and the one I'd left. He held me in the kitchen a long time. Later, I told him everything, and he said, So you gave the kid a life and gave her nothing. I nodded. In the months since, Jason started his welding program. He sends photos, sparks flying. A real grin now. He visited once, and Frank taught him to shape a bowel. I keep that image next to Frank's sentence. Sylvia hasn't contacted me again. She tells her version, I'm sure, but I don't need it. I pulled my brother out of the gears and closed that account forever. Now Emma is 2. Standing on a stool beside me at dawn, patting dough with flour on her nose. She will never know the arithmetic that ruled that other house. Here, love is not a bill. She is kept for no reason, except that she is ours. I spent my life trying to be useful enough to keep, but the people who truly love you never do the math. That cream envelope, that borrowed name, that table of strangers I didn't fold. If you've ever had to close a door gently and keep it closed, this story was for you. Please like and subscribe to Tranquil Drama Stories. Tell me in the comments about a door you finally shut. I'll keep a light on and the oven warm.